Well, good morning, students. I'm trying something a little bit different. I want to show you a little bit about the project that I'm assigning, and I thought this might be the format for it. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see the fine details of what I'm doing today, but hopefully if you listen and the sound comes through, you'll be able to see the overview of what I'm doing. I'm actually sitting in my dining room on Sunday evening at my dining room table and hoping to get things organized for you guys. So anyway, your lesson, this is part of your lesson for 3/23/20. This is Monday, Earth Science. The project we're doing is called A Slice of the Earth. And what I want to get out of it is that you can name and describe layers of the Earth, both by composition and also by physical properties. Not only naming and describing them, but can you locate them on the Earth? You know the order of the layers, and I want you to have some concept of the relative size or thickness of those layers. So those are the targets that we're trying to get. I will be sharing in Google Classroom this assignment, and the assignment has step-by-step directions, but I know there's a couple of places where students sometimes get stuck, so I want to go through this with you. So, a slice of the Earth. In this activity, you will make a scale drawing of the interior regions of the Earth. We will be using a 1 to 10 million scale. That is, 1 centimeter on your diagram will represent 100 kilometers of actual distance. You are trying to produce a neat, complete, labeled diagram. You will need a large piece of paper for your diagram. Begin by taping together 3 regular sheets as shown. So I had on Friday said that you would need to try to gather together 3 sheets of paper, a ruler with a metric side, certainly a pencil, some tape. I think I had said on Friday that you needed clear tape, but it really doesn't matter what kind of tape you have. Piece of string, and I am hoping this is something that all of you can find, is some sort of straight edge. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy. I have an old yardstick here. If it was a meter stick with metric markings on it, it'd be better yet. Then I could get by without this other ruler. But some sort of straight edge. I hope you can find something around your house, and you need it to be probably a little over 2 feet long in order for it to accomplish what we're going to do. So our directions say that we're going to tape these 3 pieces together the long way. So I'm going to start out with 2 pieces, and I'm going to turn over to the bad side of the paper. I'm going to put my tape on this opposite side. So we just get them lined up nice and even, and piece of tape there. Piece of tape down there. One more for good measure. I'll slide that over. And same thing with these 2 pieces. Piece of tape up there. Piece down here. One more through the middle for good measure. Alright, then the directions in number 2 say flip your paper over. So tape side is facing down. And I'm going to go through at this point, and I'm going to just take some little pieces of tape. I'm going to tape down the corners of my paper, because I think in the long run that's going to help me out. In class, there'd be some parts of this where I'd say, hey, help out your neighbor to hold the paper while they do some things on it. But if you're working on your own, taping that down I think is going to help. So, step number 2, using a straight edge, draw a line down the middle of your paper the long way. So I'm going to find roughly the middle of my paper, and I'm taking a pencil, drawing all the way along. Step 3, near the right hand edge of your paper, measure 8.3 centimeters up from your center line and down from your center line. Okay, so I'm going to take my metric ruler, and I'm a little bit worried. I got to check my camera here. Okay, I'll make sure that I'm staying on your view screen. One of the easiest ways to do this is if I put the 8.3, now so that's 8 full centimeters, and the 0.3 is 3 of the small spaces, so the third small line. If I put that in here, and then I just make a point at 0, and I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to put the 0 line on there, and I'm going to go 8, and then the third small line, 8.3, and make that mark. And it says to do this again, a second set of marks. This is step 4, 8.3 centimeters above and below, and this time about 25 centimeters from the right hand edge. So 25 centimeters is out in here somewhere, so close to the beginning of this first sheet of paper. So I've got 8.3 on there, and I'll put a mark at 0, and I'm going to go with my 0 on here and put a mark at 8.3. All right, that is our first page of instructions. Page 2, number 5. Use a straight edge and pencil to connect your 2 top marks. So those 2 little marks that I put up there, put my ruler across. And I'm going to draw a straight edge, and we're going to do the same for the 2 bottom marks. Okay, hopefully you followed along. If you didn't catch on to this already, certainly if you're trying to work through this while watching the video, when I'm talking about something, stop until you can get it done, and then resume playing the video. In number 5, it also says make a small vertical mark on my center line about 3 centimeters from the left edge of your paper. This point is going to represent the center of the earth. Now, when it says about 3 centimeters, that doesn't have to be an exact measurement. So I'm just going to go over here and make a little mark, and I'm going to label this as center of the earth. Okay, so on to step 6. It says the earth has a radius of about 6,371 kilometers. On our scale, that would be 63.7 centimeters. And we're supposed to measure and place a mark 63.7 centimeters from our center. So we'd measure over 63.7 centimeters. If I were in a classroom and I had a meter stick, I could do that all at once. Since I don't have a meter stick, I've got a metric ruler that can go 30 centimeters at a time. I'm just going to put my ruler on here, line up my 0. I'm going to put a mark on here for 30, and I'm going to label that just as a reminder for later that that was my 30 centimeter mark. And I'm going to measure over another 30, put a mark. 30 plus 30 is 60. So if I'm at 60, I need another 3.7. So from 60, I'm measuring over 1, 2, 3, and then 7 little marks. So this is 63.7 centimeters. That was step 6. Step 7. We are trying to draw a wedge-shaped slice, kind of like a slice of pizza, a long, skinny slice of pizza. This is as if we could just look through the earth. So if you can picture, if I were looking at the earth, if I sliced it through the middle, but now I'm looking at just a little wedge like this. That's what I'm really trying to draw. And the outside of the earth is curved. I know some of you try to resist that idea, but it is. So we need a tool for drawing an arc. And what we're going to use for this is our piece of string. And so it says in step 7 that this loop and a pencil can be used for a large compass. And you're going to watch Mr. Rupp's demonstration. Well, you're watching Mr. Rupp's demonstration for this whole thing. So step 8. I have my loop of string on the end of my pencil. And I'm just holding it in place with my finger. And I'm going to put that pencil mark, that pencil, right on the 63.7 spot that I made. My other hand, I'm stretching out to the 0 mark. Now, I have to be kind of careful about keeping tension, but if I keep the same tension on my string, I can make a nice mark. Now, I'm going to say I think I missed my mark by about a millimeter. If you get that close, I'll be okay with it. All right? And you see that it made a nice smooth arc. There's our step 8. We used the string to make an arc. And now step 9 says draw lines from the center point, that's our center of the earth, to where the arc intersects our guidelines. So I'm going to draw a line from here to here and from here to here. And this is where that long straight edge, and I truly hope you were able to find something to use. All right, pretty good. Looks like we got a wedge. Now, as I said, this is a scale diagram. So this, for every centimeter of this wedge, represents 100 kilometers of space on the earth. And if you cut out this wedge and combined it with, I believe it's 23 others, 24 wedges in total, you would have an entire circle representing the earth. On to page 3. On the top half of your slice, so top half, we're going to draw in arcs that define the main layers of the earth by chemical composition. And it says that's going to be the crust, mantle, and core. So this top half is just going to be divided into 3 areas. And you hopefully know that the crust is on the outside, and the core is in the middle, and the mantle, or the core is in the center of the earth, and the mantle is in between. So let's look for our lines. I have this chart of measurements worked out for you. So one column is distances from the surface of the earth. Well, one's the radius of the earth, but the others are from the surface down. And speaking of that, I think I'm going to go over here and say that this is the surface of the earth. So we have our center of the earth, surface of the earth. Label it, there's no confusion later on. So, all right, let's try to figure out the crust. It says the average depth to the base of the crust is 35 kilometers. So that's less than a centimeter. Remember, a centimeter is going to be 100 kilometers. So on our scale that we're doing, this is only going to be 0.35 centimeters. That means the crust goes down 0.35 centimeters from this outside, or I have a distance from the center of the Earth, 63.35. So since I already have my 60 mark, I could line up my 0 on my ruler, and I could find where 3.35 is halfway between 3.3 and 3.4. So I'm going right there. Now, I have to make an arc there to define that line. So I take my string compass, lock it in place with my finger, stretch this out, get some nice tension on it, and I draw a nice arc. And that's going to be the crust. So I got the crust. Now I got to find, I know the mantle is going to be in here and the core is going to be here. So I got to find where's the boundary between the mantle and the core, and it tells us right here. The core mantle boundary is at a depth of 2,885 kilometers from the surface. So if I were measuring from the surface, that's 28.9 centimeters down. And I worked it out for you. If we're measuring from the center of the Earth, it's 34.8 centimeters. I already have a mark here at 30 centimeters. So let's just add on another 4.8. So 4 centimeters plus 8 little marks. Doesn't hurt to label some of these also, 34.8. And I want to strike an arc there. So I'm going to lock my pencil into my string, put my pencil point on that, stretch it out, keep some nice even tension, and I have an arc that represents my boundary between my core and my mantle. On the bottom half of your slice, you're going to draw in arcs that represent the layers of the Earth by physical property. And that's going to be the lithosphere, the asthenosphere, the mesosphere, the outer core, and the inner core. I'm not going to draw all those in for you. I want you to use this information. You know, we can see to the depth of the lithosphere, to the base of the asthenosphere. We've got the core mantle boundary. And then we've got the distance between the inner core and outer core. You have your distances. I've showed you how to mark the arcs. You can find where to do those. If you find out that this line is also on the bottom half, you're right. This line could have been continued. Now, please note that there is some more information down here in the bottom, and this is probably the most important part of this assignment. 11, neatly color in your different regions. I'm going to leave that somewhat optional. I guess I'd like it. It looks a lot better if you color it in, but I realize some of you may not have colored pencils or crayons at home. I suspect most of you do, so it'd be a nice thing for you to do. Number 12, definitely. Label each region with its name and a brief description. So, for example, right here, I know this is my mantle. Okay? So I'm going to label it. I know this is my core. I'm going to label it. My crust. Now the crust is kind of thin, and so I'm going to use an arrow and label in the crust. Okay? But it says a brief description. So now I need to go to my notes and my reading and say, what is a description? So if the top half of this page is supposed to be on chemical composition, that means what is it made of? So you need to give me a description of what is the mantle made of? What is the core made of? What is the crust made of? Make sure that you're identifying how the crust is different from the mantle. Because I'll tell you, the crust and mantle are both rock, but they're different types of rock. What are they? You're going to do the same thing on the bottom. You have your layers drawn in. By physical property in this case, you're going to label them and you're going to give a description. Okay? And the last thing says, in step 13, says label the two halves. So I want this top half saying this is layers by chemical composition. And the bottom half, this is layers by physical properties. So when all is said and done, this is going to be a nice little summary of the layers of the Earth by two different criteria, all drawn to scale. And just looking at this, do you notice how the crust is really, really thin compared to everything else? And I'm even looking at this, and I want to double check my measurements here because I'm feeling like it's a little bit off. No, I guess that's okay. I think part of it, as I said in my original measurement, that I think I missed this line by about 1 millimeter. So this is actually a little thick for the crust. If you can get that close, I'll be satisfied with it. So hopefully this helped you with this assignment, what you have to do. I am going to say, as far as due date, I'm going to give you to Wednesday to get this turned in. How do you turn it in? You're going to take pictures. You can take one picture where you try to get the overall, but realize with that, I'm not going to be able to read that information probably very well in the picture. So you can take an overall, but then maybe break up and take a picture of this, picture of this, picture of this. At least 2 sections, probably 3 sections, so that I can read your information. All right, Wednesday is the end of the quarter, so please make sure that you are getting this in by Wednesday. Wednesday, the end of the day. If you have questions, as always, please contact me. I think we should be good on this part. I have some other material for you to look at too. As always, follow Google Classroom. Stay safe. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.